Greetings, good people. Greetings, good people. Jumbo Africa, the hot potato. What is the difference? The difference is the potato can be hot and it's in my chest, the hot potato. Join me on an exercise where we do the cleaning. So it's a chest cleaning exercise. Today I had something else that I wanted to talk about. It was about religion and so on. But something just popped up whilst I'm on the streets. And by the streets, I mean being with ordinary people, just ordinary talking, layman perspectives and so on. But I found it very fascinating that I couldn't keep it to myself. I thought it's good to share. And the level and the quality and the depth of the discussion is not for ordinary people. So they were talking economics, and I'm not an economics doyen, so I was there listening. But I was like, wow, ordinary people talking about the monetary policy of their country. Guys, raise your hand if in your country you can sit down and talk about the monetary policy as ordinary citizens. I'm not talking of economists. I'm like, you sitting there and go like, yeah, the monetary policy, they want to devalue the repo rate. Do you do that? If you don't, I'm not saying there's anything wrong about it. I'm just telling you that what I bumped on as an ordinary person, as I've said, I'm not an economist, but I found it very, very fascinating, and more fascinating that it's coming from ordinary people. So I thought I should share with you. So they were talking about a country that has got a multi-currency regime. I've got so many currencies: the rand, the pula, the US dollar, the naira, the yen, multi-currency regime. That's what they were talking about. They say one person asked a question, and the question was, why in a country that has got a multi-currency regime is inflation measured on one currency? Or which currency of these multi-currencies that you peg your inflation on? And this debate was raging on and so on. So they were doing that, and one guy came up with a response. I had to write it down. I had to write it down because I was like, I won't be able to remember it. I'm getting old, and some of this stuff will just disappear from my mind. So I thought I should write it down and I'll share with you. There's nothing big, but it's just a small issue. And as I've outlined, they were talking about currencies, a country that has got a multi-currency regime. So which currency would you use as your to measure your inflation? So they've got what is called a blended inflation rate in such an environment. So you measure your inflation in a blended fashion. And by blended fashion, you have to anchor it on a major currency. And how do you then measure which one is the major currency? So that's where I've got the notes. So the major currency is measured by its ability to fulfill the following, or the following roles. So the following roles are the anchor currency. That's number one. This is the currency that is widely, this is the currency widely, no, got it wrong. So this is the currency that serves as a reference point for other countries. So I got it wrong here. I must have cancelled it. So I want to repeat this one so that I get it clear. Anchor currency. This is the currency that serves as a reference point for other countries. Okay, so that's number one. So that's how we measure when you are in a multi-currency regime and you want to measure inflation. It's going to be blended inflation. And if you choose to have one currency that you use as the major currency, then these are the roles that the currency must play. And we've said number one is the anchor currency. It is the anchor currency. This is the currency that serves as a reference point for other countries. Then the second one is the vehicle currency. So this currency that you choose to use as the major currency must be, this is the currency that is most widely used for international transactions. Okay, then the peg currency is the third one. This is the currency to which other currencies are pegged or fixed. And then the fourth one, reserve currency. This is the currency that the central bank that the central bank hold in their foreign exchange reserves. And then the last one, domestic currency. This is the currency of the local country or region. So if your currency that you are measuring inflation is in a multi-currency regime is not playing any of these roles, so the question to you is, why are you using that currency to measure inflation? Okay, guys, I found it very, very interesting because there are countries that are going through that, and the inflation will be measured. It's in trillions. It's which currency are you using in a multi-currency regime? Which currency are you using and why? Is it a major currency? And does it play the roles that I've just mentioned? I'll outline them before I go, so that the first row is anchor currency, the second row is the vehicle currency, the third row is the reserve currency, the fourth row is the peg currency, the fifth row is the domestic currency. So that's how you then say this is the currency we need to use to measure our inflation. So that's crazy, guys. And I'm telling you this, I wasn't in a class, not at any tertiary institution. This is strict talk. We are in the streets and we are having such a rich conversation by ordinary people. It doesn't matter that some of them could be economists, but the fact that you get it on the street, guys, that's really rich. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all.